What if praying for someone became a criminal act? What if following Jesus meant breaking the law? In this video, we unpack the rising legal pressure on Christians, where offering prayer, discipleship, or even encouragement to someone struggling with sexuality or gender could land you in trouble. But the real danger, it isn't jail, it's silence. These laws don't just ban actions, they create fear. They make believers second-guess obedience. And that hesitation is how the church disappears from culture. This is about more than legislation. It's about who we're willing to obey and what it might cost us. Watch the full episode to go deeper. Tell us about the letter. What's in the letter?
Yes, the letters really aim to be, it's aimed to be two things. It's aimed to be an appeal to our government. Our state government has said it's unlawful for people, religious practitioners, preachers, pastors, and just regular people, regular church members, to be offering counsel or praying with people who are same-sex attracted or in having issues with gender or anything in that space that seeks to convert or to encourage. It's quite broad, to encourage abstinence, chastity in those circumstances. And so by conversion, obviously they mean, in the case of someone who's suffering from gender dysphoria, praying with them that they don't change their self-identification, change their how they refer to their gender or their sex, or to pursue gender treatments. Or in the case of someone who's same-sex attracted, it'd be don't pray with them to be chaste. Don't pray with them. Don't counsel them to be chaste. Don't counsel them to pray to God for help in saying no to these attractions. And so the letter is an appeal to the government saying, we want to live as peaceful Christians. 1 Timothy chapter 2 tells us to pray for our government and pray that we would live peaceful lives. And that peace isn't just like a lack of fighting or things, but it's a peace from the government so that we'd be free to exercise our basic role as disciple makers, people making disciples of Jesus, encouraging them to follow Jesus and obey Jesus. So it's an appeal in that sense, and it's also an appeal for those who are suffering from same-sex attraction or from gender dysphoria or any related issues like that. They shouldn't feel like they're putting people in danger if they're asking for prayer. And we called it open windows because in Daniel chapter 6, Daniel is put under pressure for his prayer life's put under pressure, and instead of obeying the new laws that came in, he's not allowed to pray for 30 days to anyone but the king. He went into his room, opened his windows and prayed. And of course, Daniel doesn't pray like we pray. Daniel prays, he stands up and he looks out towards Jerusalem and he speaks loudly. And so the letter is saying, even if these laws aren't repealed, we as Christians have to obey God rather than our government.
Incredible, so encouraging, so grateful for what you've pioneered, what you've gone after and your conviction. If we saw like a worst part of the legislation, what would you imagine for your practitioners, what's like the worst bit? What makes it so difficult for us to accept the tenets of the legislation? I mean, apart from the legal issues, the circular reasoning, poorly defined terms. It's bad law from a legal perspective because you define words with the same words. So that's a challenge. Its vagaries are a big problem. But apart from that, what's the main thing that you're concerned about?
I'm not largely concerned with being thrown in prison. As a Christian, you've got to count that cost. I'm not largely concerned with being brought before tribunals or any of that. My biggest concern is the chilling effect this has on the ministry of the church. And by ministry, I don't mean, robes, people up the front, all that kind of stuff. The main ministry of the church, one of my core convictions is the main ministry of the church happens when Christians go about obeying Jesus in their households, in their workplace, in community. And the issue with this legislation and its related documentation from AD and SW is that it has a chilling effect on that ministry. It puts a gap between the moment where someone asks you to pray for them and you actually praying for them. There's a moment where you go, but hang on, hang on, this could cause me trouble. Now, so be it. If that's the case, so be it. We as Christians need to count the cost, as I said, and face up to that. But that little step, I think that's one of the things that 1 Timothy 2 is asking us to pray for our government for, that they might not have that chilling effect.
Yeah. That chilling effect is not always internal. It's not always individual. That chilling effect is often separate to the legislative effect, but it's the self-regulation. I think the intended, maybe even stated goals of some of the change and suppression legislation is that self-censoring will take place subsequent to this. So if that's a stated goal, I imagine I'm aware of institutions, churches and denominations who will then put out statements that interpret these law with set expectations of behaviour. So it isn't just the individual might question it. You've got institutions saying, well, this is how we will adhere to this law, or others who are saying, well, we have a higher authority.
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity for leaders, for church leaders to take stock and go, how am I making space for people to obey Jesus here? Because without doubt, the things that have been presented to us will, if we abide by them, will cause us to disobey Jesus. And so leadership at that point says to churches, says to Christians, says to leaders within the church, we will back you if you break the law for Jesus. And that's a fearful thing for me when I see leaders going, okay, let's take time to properly interpret these laws and then apply them. It chills, again, that word, but it chills the very thing which we should be pressing against. We should be pressing into this and saying, no, ignore them, ignore these regulations, because people need prayer, and it's not loving, it's not compassionate at all to say, well, no, we're going to stop doing this thing that our culture says is harmful when Jesus actually calls it good.